Hello, welcome to Digital Learning. I'm Connie Kolosey, Director of Media Text and Digital Learning, and for our episode today we have with us Dr. Natasha Karac and Cynthia Ramos-Gonzales, and they are here. We're going to be talking today about how we can use technology to support our English language learners in our schools. So, Dr. Karac, Natasha, please tell us a little bit about your job and what you do.
Good morning. Like you said already, Natasha Karac. I am the specialist for K-12 ESOL services for the district.
And what does that involve?
It involves everything. K-12 is a very broad spectrum of grades, and like I always emphasize to everybody I speak to is the fact that our English language learners are in every pore of the district, starting with students who need additional support in form of remediation, all the way to gifted and accelerated services where we provide enrichment opportunities for them. They have needs that all our families in the district do, and on top of that they have a barrier that's a little different from the rest of our families, which is the language barrier and the cultural barrier.
And Cynthia, what do you do?
Good morning, I'm Cynthia Ramos-Gonzales, and my job is to help ESOL teachers and content area teachers provide access of the content to their students, provide them with strategies, technology tools that will help students bridge the language barrier and the curriculum barrier in many situations, and have them have access to the content.
So, Natasha, you mentioned that the need is really varied because you have very low learners, very high learners. What are some of the trends that you've seen over the last time that you've been involved in the department in terms of the languages that you address and the levels?
Like you said, the needs are varied, and an important component, like you already said, in assessing those needs are the countries our students come from. But on top of that, there are several other layers that we have to look at. In terms of trends in languages and countries, what we're currently seeing and the schools are experiencing firsthand are students who have been displaced from the disaster areas, such as Puerto Rico. We have about 200 in our schools, K-12 currently. But also waves of refugees in the past couple of years from Arab-speaking countries. So in terms of talking specifically to those populations, it is always important not to view English language learners through one lens. But I keep talking about inserting lenses when we're talking about English language learners. And just to give one example of Puerto Rico, what we're seeing is students that come to us with very high levels of content knowledge, very high levels of English language knowledge. Obviously, they come with a lot more exposure to technology skills and high levels of digital literacy. And this is a group of students that come to us from urban areas and bigger cities versus the population with the same background in terms of the country they come from, Puerto Rico, but coming to us from rural areas where they had limited exposure to schooling, low English skills, lower levels of content knowledge, and definitely lower levels of exposure and experience to digital skills and technical skills.
So it seems like one of the biggest mistakes that we could make would be to think of a title of English language learners and assume that everyone is the same.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
Cynthia, what are some challenges that teachers face when students arrive and they have, they're not speaking the language?
One of the biggest challenges is really finding out what strategies work best. If we don't know what proficiency levels the students are in, we don't know what strategies to accurately provide. And one of the things that I've been really trying to kind of, have that message out is let's not just talk about ELL strategies, but ELL's strategies by proficiency level. So we provide the right type of support, even if the student came from a rural background and had limited exposure to education, or if the student was maybe a rock star where they came from. So we provide the right accommodation, not just for ELLs as a blanket statement, but by proficiency levels.
Yes, and that makes me think that when I was in the classroom, which has been a bit now, but still the expectation was in my lesson planning was to identify which ELL strategies I was going to be using that week. And it did not matter that where my student was coming from or how proficient they were, but we were going to use that strategy for EL. So it's really a much more nuanced than that.
It is.
So we've really seen an uptick of technology ability to help us with this and reach kids individually. And we had a chance to visit a classroom at Pinellas Park High School, teacher Wendy Hadeen, and she is a rock star teacher. And she is not an EL teacher specifically, but she is teaching a reading class. And so these students are students that have challenges with reading, probably mostly comprehension, and vocabulary. And so again, a wide range of student need to address. So she ran across a application available to us through Windows 10 now, through Office 365, Microsoft, through PowerPoint Translator. And you know a little bit about PowerPoint Translator. Tell us what it does.
PowerPoint Translator really has helped teachers and students and even parents just kind of bridge communication in a way. The way every teacher can use it is very different. The way I use the majority of the time Microsoft Translator is the translator part, not so much with the PowerPoint. So we've seen everything in the classroom from using it in small group where the translator can help students come together and actually have a conversation about content where in the past maybe our ELs were excluded and they were just working independently on something, but now everybody gets to engage in the same topic and kind of see the same standard being alive in the classroom. The way Ms. Hadeen uses it is very unique in the sense that she prepares ahead of time what the students are going to see, and she can just go over her PowerPoint and have that same PowerPoint transmitted in about 5 different languages at the time in her small group, and everybody's benefiting from her instruction in their native language. But then she transitions to English, which is our ultimate goal. We really want to make sure that we verify that the student is comfortable, understands the content, and then we go back to those key vocabulary words in English, and really making sure we have our targets being kind of well and alive within the small group. And she does an amazing job at using Microsoft PowerPoint Translator for that.
Well, let's take a look. We have some clips of her.
I first started using Microsoft Translate at the beginning of the year. I saw it on our Yammer feed for the Microsoft Innovative Educator Experts, and I thought I'd check it out. And so that's what started me with it. It has a conversational tool to it where I can set up a conversation and my students can log into that conversation in their own language. So I can type or talk. It will show up in English on my device, whatever I'm using, and it'll show up in their chosen language on their device.
Que ayuda mucho porque uno puede entender bien lo que dice la maestra.
Yeah, it says like for example, like the books that says is it says good, like good translation, not like in Google.
It's better than Google Translate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Well, the PowerPoint, the Microsoft Presenter, it's an add-in to the PowerPoint itself. It's from the Microsoft Garage, which is those programs that they're trying out. And it adds the subtitles in there. Now, when you first start using it, it uses artificial intelligence. And so the more that you read to it or talk to it or whatever, the better it gets at knowing what it is that you want to say. We are currently doing a book in my class where the main character's name is an Indian name. And when I first started reading the book, it was not coming up as that. And now all the names in the book are being displayed just like they are written.
So what did you see there in that clip with Ms. Hadeen that was meaningful to you?
What's very important to emphasize and highlight in her work is how masterfully and importantly that she's doing that. She's monitoring the use of native language versus the use of English language. What we have to remember with our English language learners is our ultimate goal is to make sure that they're successful academically and they pass assessments at the end of the school year, which we know are in English. So the language of instruction matches the language of assessment, but she is monitoring very carefully that the use of native language is used as a support, and her ultimate goal is to make sure that the students are developing their academic language skills.
So in this next clip, we get a chance to watch her doing that a bit and see specifically how she's making that transition.
Is to be able to access what we're doing as far as being able to communicate with my students. It's a total game changer. When we began
It will
our
tell
book,
you why she
originally
encourages
in
them
class,
to have
a lot of my learners would just kind of sit there. And it was simply because they didn't know what was going on. And then I'd try to catch them up real quick and explain it, but it just wasn't the same. And now that we have the Translate, I have some that will sit with the book open and the iPad beside them, and they'll go back and forth. I have some that will mostly read in the book and then occasionally look over to make sure they're understanding, especially when I'm explaining. And then I have some that will that are at a language where they completely watch the iPad to understand what's going on. And they have told me it has changed everything for them.
Pues mi cosa favorita es que puedo entender más el libro que la maestra está leyendo con el iPad. Me ayuda más a entenderlo.
He said that it helps better like with the iPad than hearing, you know? I don't know how to say it. Like hearing she say it in English, he would understand, but with the iPad he understands way better because like two language.
I just think it is a valuable tool for any teacher that has students that, you know, like I said, you can use it with the deaf and hard of hearing students, any students that are ELL, whatever their level is. So now that they have that accessibility piece to the content that's being taught, I would love that they each had their own mobile device with it on there and teachers were using it in every single class.
So we saw some kids actually using several forms of technology there. What hit you about that second clip and what she was doing in the classroom?
What I really like is that the students have the opportunity to use their native language as a vehicle to now acquire English language, and it's really at a student pace. You see different students utilizing the iPad and the novel in different capacities. So she really is thinking about their level of proficiency and letting the student make the choice. I can transition myself out of this support as I find suitable.
It seems like that would be just an unbelievable support to be able to hear it in the language and then see the words and understand, and really would excel the learning. As I was watching, though, I thought, what about that child in their science class, their math class? Are these tools useful in content classes as well?
Definitely, and Ms. Hadeen said it really well, where everybody should be using this as a tool to actually master a content area vocabulary. We should be using this in the language of math, science, history. Everybody can benefit from utilizing their native language as a vehicle to now acquire new language that will ultimately be assessed at the end of the year.
Cynthia, talk to us about Nearpod and how your department is using Nearpod.
Nearpod has been a great tool for teachers to get all of their newcomer students to be able to engage in content using visuals, being able to respond using their iPad and have those responses appear on screen versus having them verbalize it. They might not be ready to verbalize yet, but this is a way that our students have been able to engage in content and just kind of ease into the language at a great rate and feeling comfortable in their class. And it's all, they could use it in their mobile device or an iPad, so it's very engaging for our students.
So the students can actually use their own devices
They can.
as well. So on this program, in the past, we've done quite a few sessions on Nearpod, but this is really focusing down to help a specific slice. So we visited Jennifer, help me with her last name,
Orecchio.
Jennifer Orecchio's classroom at Dunedin High School, another high school. I think it's exciting being a secondary person. I'm happy to be visiting some secondary schools today. And so let's see, get introduced to Jennifer Orecchio and her classroom at Dunedin High.
So Nearpod was presented to me in a training, all-day training, and once they showed how easy it was for me, I was asking questions. I rolled it out the very next day, and the kids were so into it. It was, at the time, it was about 10 students in the ESOL 5th period class, actually. And we went outside, everybody was engaged, they were in their phones, they were quiet, because I have a loud bunch, so they were all engaged. It was amazing. And I'm like, wow, this is great. Nearpod is so easy to use, and all of the students at the high school level are into their cell phones. So I say, we're going on our cell phones today. And they are like, what? So that's the first thing, I have buy-in. And that's like 90% of it. And then the 10% is it's all engaged, it flows easy, you move from screen to screen very easily.
How long has she been with Pinellas County Schools?
Jennifer actually was a Title I resource teacher at an elementary school. And she, after graduating, she really wanted to transition into secondary. And she does an amazing job because she really does use the elementary resource or that toolbox that she has ingrained already in her, and uses rotations. She looks at data very wisely, and she uses that through Nearpod as well. She engages students at their level, and she's just, a wonderful resource, but she is coming from elementary.
So sometimes young teachers, new teachers, struggle with that classroom management piece. And she's talking about how this really helps her with student engagement, student buy-in. In most classes, we're saying, put that phone away. And in this, let's put that phone to good use. You have a powerful computer in your pocket. So she is going to talk to us a little bit more about how she gets the content for Nearpod.
So the materials, it's all another click of the button. So I log in and through my teacher login, and I can have access to pre-done lessons. And so I just look on, usually I look to see what the standard is in reading. Sometimes I use a developmental language course where we learn just a simple phrase, like, may I go to the bathroom? And then it's very easy to use. I love it for that. You can create a lesson, or you can use a pre-made lesson, or you can edit a pre-made lesson. So for example, I loved the one where it had ethos, logos, and pathos, and I wanted to edit because this school wanted me to use an FSA style prompt. So I chose another, I used a poem from, I think, Common Lit, and I pulled that resource in, and then I created a prompt, and students were very engaged in it.
So what do we see in talking with, watching Jennifer in that clip?
We saw interaction with technology, and what makes Nearpod very beneficial for English language learners is that this is a type of technology that's interactive. What's important for language learning is meaningful interaction with language. Just like for content learning, we need meaningful interaction for content. So the Nearpod lessons, whether they're made by the teachers, whether we're using the lessons that are pre-made, are very interactive. They provide that personalized learning experience for English language learners at different levels of language proficiency, but they're not replacing a teacher. So that exposure and that interaction is what we're seeing that's happening in the classroom that's really helping move our students forward.
So one of the great things about Nearpod is it has some monitoring tools and progress monitoring built right in. And you can put quizzes in, the kids' response, and she talks in this next clip about the reports that she gets from all of that. So let's take a look.
So from the teacher standpoint, there's the report section that it's all right there at a click of a button. So I just go into reports and I pull it up. I can see who's participating. I can see what they posted. I can see who's struggling to do a remediation. For the students, it's nice because, especially for the ELs learners, because you can, they have a portion where you can play it and they can listen to somebody else other than myself say the word enunciated. And then they in turn practice speaking it aloud. Okay, so now that we heard it, let's say the word analysis. Analysis. Good. All right, so we're gonna move on. And then sometimes there's partner work where they turn in their partner and practice speaking in a dialogue. It's very cool. It's very cool things.
So Cynthia, let's talk a little bit about the importance of that progress monitoring piece that this program provides.
So it's really important for her to go back and look at reports and see if a student is participating correctly, if the student is engaged throughout the entire presentation. The EL library that Nearpod provides really does have lessons that target all 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So if she's carefully looking at that, she knows that she is working towards gains in all domains. And it's really exciting for her to see progress and kind of hear students for the first time sometimes, because they just feel comfortable now speaking with the, or recording themselves in the program.
So without a tool like this, basically teachers would have no way to know. And we often hear, what do you want me to do? A lesson for each individual student. But this gives us a chance to really do that and to know specifically what our kids are getting from the lesson. So it's one thing for adults to be excited, but we had a chance to hear from her kids on this topic too. Let's take a look.
I like that it's in computer and I can be with my friends and we can learn something new. There's a new topic every day in Nearpod.
Nice. What about Nearpod makes it easier for you to learn what she's presenting to you?
Well, I'm very good at reading, but when the teachers speak, it's very difficult to me because my main language is Spanish, as you know, and that's it.
Is there a particular thing in Nearpod that you like best?
Well, when the times that we work with Nearpod, there's something about art, and that's what I like.
You like art? Nice.
Yeah.
Do you like the Draw It feature that's in Nearpod where you get to draw things out?
Yeah, the images and everything.
He helped me like in reading because I can talk and I understand, but I can't read it at all. When the teacher tell me in the class for reading, I confuse some words, so that helped me.
Well, something I like Nearpod, that it has like different kind, of materials and different kind of things that you can like know about and learn. So that's really good about Nearpod.
Nice. How does it help you when you're trying to learn some of the things that your teacher's kind of introducing to you?
Well, it helps, to learn more stuff that you already like know about that thing, but it gives you like more information about what you're learning. The drawing part, it's really amazing that, you can draw like whatever you like within that question or whatever like it's asking you. And you can like pass Google images to your painting to make it like perfect or however you want it to be. Well, it helped me a lot because they like give tons of work, so I really like that. So in Puerto Rico, it's just like they're talking about one thing, but here we talk like a lot of things, give us bigger work than we do in Puerto Rico. So and that's really challenging, and I like a challenge.
So the thing I found so interesting there was you had the one child say that he can read it, but when he hears it, he doesn't understand it. And then I heard the other child say, I can speak it, but I don't understand it when I read it. Did you pick up on that too?
Yes, I did, and it really all goes back to knowing where students are in their language journey and knowing their proficiency levels. So the benefit of knowing where your students are in terms of their 4 language domains is knowing their strengths. So we know what they can do and move forward from there. So we have one student expressing, I'm really good, I can read, I just have a harder time expressing myself. And he indicates, I like the drawing feature because I can express myself without using words and validate my idea.
So 2 different resources that we've talked about in this program, Nearpod. How do teachers access Nearpod? Who has access to Nearpod through your department? I can mention through my department.
Currently, our secondary ESOL teachers have access to Nearpod licenses. All of our middle school and high school classrooms are equipped not only with the Nearpod licenses, but also with iPads. So the students who do not have their own device, we've provided iPads for them.
And through my department, we have purchased a block of licenses, and they're available to teachers who want to use them and will use them. And we monitor who's using them. I should also mention that nearpod.com, there is a free access too. And so many teachers can access it and do access it free. And I find that the high level users then were able to extend a license. Moving back to the translator piece through Office 365, I want to mention that first of all, every district employee has that, every student has that, and every student can download the whole Microsoft Office suite on up to 5 personal devices for free. So that is out there and it's available. We do need teachers to go ahead and have their techs update their computers and get onto Windows 10 to make that work, so that's important. So we had a whole nother platform we didn't get a chance to talk about, so I might need to ask you back, but I really appreciate you being with me here today and sharing your knowledge. Thanks for coming. Please join us next time on Digital Learning.